Weird borders of states and countries. Welcome back to Trend Genie. We live in a world that is divided into continents and countries. Going further, those countries are divided into states, and states into cities, and cities into smaller towns or villages. These demarcations are done with the use of boundaries or borders. Today we're going to go over 7 of the strangest and weirdest borders in the world. Several borders across the globe have their peculiarities, and as you might have already know, there are lots of borders that are quite fascinating to behold. Hence, tourists are attracted to them. However, at times borders get weird. You might get so confused you can't really tell how it's divided. Okay, have you ever been to such boundaries that look so simplified or overly complex that you begin to wonder if that's truly a boundary or an artwork? It's rather strange, to say the least. Interestingly, in this video, I'll let you in on some weird borders of states and countries you might like to know about. Number 7. Netherlands versus Belgium. This is also known as the Barley-Hertog-Barley-Nassau border because the boundary comprises 2 towns, Barley-Hertog, a Belgian town, and Barley-Nassau, a Dutch settlement. These 2 towns are linked in such a way that you can't possibly entirely separate it from each other. They share the same tradition, language, religion, and sometimes government. Actually, the most confusing part of these 2 towns is that they've made up of multiple enclaves, a geographical area with a government, yet surrounded by a bigger territory with an entirely different government, just like the Vatican is to Rome, Italy. What this simply implies is that most of the smaller towns in these 2 cities belong to either Netherlands or Belgium in no particular order. Confusing, right? It is so complex to determine the specific border to the extent that parts of the streets are marked by plus sign paintings across the boundaries with N or BL clearly written to indicate which country is on either side. N for Netherlands, BL for Belgium. It might shock you to know that these border paintings don't only pass through the streets, but also through restaurants, homes, churches, etc. At this point, you must be wondering how this funk came about. Well, it all started during the medieval period as a result of the complicated land agreements and disagreements that happened between both countries back then. Number 6. Liberty Island. If you're a fan of Hollywood, you might have seen a high-standing statue popularly known as the Statue of Liberty in one of the movies. If you've read about the statue, you might have learned that it is situated in New York City. Well, this is probably the right time to unlearn that theory. Originally, the Statue of Liberty has its foundation on Liberty Island, which is basically within the waters of New Jersey. In other words, the island and the statue is part of New Jersey. However, due to a unique agreement between New York and New Jersey, the island was placed under the control of New York, although both the tax collections and electricity supply are fully under the jurisdiction of New Jersey. So in case you plan to travel to New York City to have a view of the Liberty statue, maybe you should have a little change of plans location-wise. You should be going to New Jersey instead. That's weird, right? Number 5. India versus Bangladesh. This is also similar to the problem with Barley-Hertog and Barley-Nassau. A lot of enclaves are situated in a place called Cooch Behar today. In other words, Cooch Behar is a district also known as the Indian-Bangladesh border because both India and Bangladesh have interconnected enclaves right there. In some parts of Cooch Behar, an Indian enclave within Bangladesh encloses a Bangladeshi enclave, and this Bangladeshi enclave in turn surrounds another enclave of India, making it even weird and confusing. This border confusion and complexity continued till 2015 when India gave away its enclave of the Third Order to Bangladesh. As a result of this concession, there is just one Bangladeshi enclave within an Indian enclave in Bangladesh as of today. That notwithstanding, the culture and tradition of these enclaves and territories remain intact. Now, considering the fact that we are talking about a boundary shared by 2 countries, India and Bangladesh, don't you find it rather weird that some ambiguity actually exists? Or should I say, existed? Number 4. Halaib Triangle and Bur Tawil. Are you aware that Egypt and Sudan have an 800 square mile territory known as Bur Tawil, which remains unclaimed by both countries? However, just after Bur Tawil, which is unclaimed, there comes a region called the Halaib Triangle, which both Egypt and Sudan still claim the ownership till today. This was only possible because of the existence of a rare border issue between both countries. Originally, the boundaries between Sudan and Egypt were politically defined in the year 1899. And remarkably, this demarcation is different from the administrative border of both countries, which was established in 1902. For some unknown reason, both border creations excluded the region of Bur Tawil, which is still unclaimed to this very day. However, the weirdest thing about this is that the two-way border creation allowed both countries to have claims over the Halaib Triangle. How is that even possible? It is only possible because the administrative border establishment gave Sudan the claims over the Halaib Triangle, while the political demarcation gave it to Egypt. Interesting, isn't it? Number 3, the United States versus Canada. This particular boundary story is quite weird but interesting at the same time. The little village of Derby Line in Orleans County, Vermont, which is just within the US-Canada boundaries, is quite an interesting tale. On June 7, 1904, the authorities of the United States and Canada intentionally situated the Haskell Free Library and Opera House just within the boundaries of both countries in order to serve as heritage for both the United States and Canada. This establishment became the very first of its kind because it is the only known library that serves 2 countries. Moreover, it might interest you to know that visitors from either country are allowed to visit the building without their international passports. Don't you find that impressive? However, mind you that such visitors can only visit the library and return to their home countries, and hence, they are not automatically offered the opportunity to gain full entrance into the United States or Canada. Number 2, the Diomede Islands. Have you ever heard of a boundary between 2 countries with different time zones? Like a boundary where right here it's just 7 a.m. in the morning, while just over there it's 10 p.m. at night. I'm sure you might find that really weird and fascinating at the same time. Well, that's the case with the 2 Diomede Islands, which are positioned right in the center of Bering Strait. Each of these 2 Diomede Islands is owned by Russia and the United States, respectively. And of course, the time zone of both countries differs by a whopping 21 hours, 20 during the summer. The Russian island is referred to as the Bigger Diomede and is located in the Chukotka region of Russia. It is also called Radmonov Island or the Nunavik Island. Also, the American island is properly known as the Smaller Diomede. It is situated in a part of Alaska and is also known as the Krusenstern Island. These 2 islands are a marvelous sight to behold, and funny enough, they serve as boundaries between the United States and Russia within the extremes of the northern hemisphere of the Earth. Interestingly, although these 2 islands' boundaries are just 2.4 miles apart, there is a massive difference between their dates and time. Number 1, Jung Holes, Austria and Germany. This is another very unique border, if I must say, and I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Situated in the Austrian state of Tyrol and in the district of Rouet is a small village called Jung Holes. This village is originally in Austria, however it can only be accessed through Germany. For instance, if you must move from Lech Valley to the Jung Hole Valley in Austria, you must either make use of your hiking boots and climb over Mount Sogierfon, which towers over 5,300 feet, or you will have to drive all the way around Germany. I'm sure you're wondering how this can be done, but then that's exactly why this border is unique. This rare form of access is necessitated by the lack of roads from Jung Holes to any other place in Austria. For this reason, Jung Holes is considered to be part of the German customs inside of Austria. This was the case until Austria joined the European Union in 1995. It might also amaze you to find out that you can use either the German or Austrian postcode to send letters in Jung Holes. The wonders of the world are too numerous to count, and the weird borders of countries across the globe add to the wonderment. There are quite many other boundaries that might not even have been featured in this article, but then the uniqueness of the ones mentioned above is enough reason you should consider visiting any of them.